The street outside is bleeding energy, and you can smell the desperation from behind your window. It is 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and the world is suffering from a collective psychotic break. You can hear it in the frantic rhythm of car horns and the heavy rhythmic slamming of doors as people flee their offices like rats escaping a sinking ship. Millions of humans are currently participating in a forced migration of the soul. They are booking Ubers with trembling hands. They are packing expensive leather bags for weekend getaways. They do not actually want to go on to see people they do not actually like and to post photos of a life they do not actually live. They are asking their friends, "Where are we going tonight?" because the thought of an empty calendar feels like a death sentence to their fragile and hollow egos. They are putting on clothes that feel like armor and applying masks that look like smiles just to prove to a world of total strangers that they are not lonely. But you are standing on the other side of the threshold. You reach out and grab the cold, unforgiving metal of the door handle. You pull it shut. Listen to that sound, that deep, final, heavy click of the deadbolt sliding into place. In a single heartbeat, the decibel level of the entire universe drops to zero. The frantic vibration of the city is severed with surgical precision. You have just performed a strike against the chaos of the modern world. For most people, a holiday requires a boarding pass and a destination and a crowded terminal full of coughing strangers. For you, the ultimate holiday is finally having permission to go absolutely nowhere at all. You find more raw adventure in the slow rise of steam from a ceramic mug or the weight of a thick cotton blanket than they do in a cross-country flight. To the world, you look like you are doing nothing. You look isolated. You look like a broken cog in the machine of progress. But they are misreading the data completely. Inside your cranium, a complex neurological calibration is taking place. You are not hiding from life. You are reclaiming the energy that everyone else is so eager to throw away on the trivial. Today, we are going to dissect the clinical reality of the homebody. We are going to look at why your love for the quiet room is not a social defect, but the ultimate sign of a high-efficiency brain. While the rest of the world is spending their energy, you are investing yours. Let us look at the data before the noise finds you again. Let us examine the social market and why most people are walking around in a state of spiritual and emotional bankruptcy. Every time you step outside that door, you are entering a high-stakes casino where the house always wins. Every interaction is a transaction. Every small-talk conversation about the weather or the local sports team or the news of the day is a withdrawal from your internal bank account. Most people spend their entire weekend chasing the high of external validation, only to return to work on Monday morning feeling more depleted and bitter than when they left. They are social gamblers addicted to the dopamine hit of being seen and being acknowledged by people whose opinions do not actually matter. They are terrified of the silence, because in the silence, they have to listen to the sound of their own hollow lives. But you are a social sovereign. You have realized that your attention is the most valuable commodity on the planet. By closing that door, you are refusing to let the world tax your soul for one more minute. You are not avoiding people because you hate humanity. You are avoiding them because you value yourself too much to be wasted on the trivial and the fake. This is the difference between the fear of missing out and the joy of missing out. While the world is terrified of the empty chair, you have turned that chair into a throne of observation. You are not a victim of isolation. You are the architect of your own atmosphere. You are performing a process of neural maintenance that the frantic and the loud can never understand. You are allowing your nervous system to downshift from the high alert state of social performance to the deep restoration of true rest. This is not a passive act of laziness. This is the most aggressive thing you can do for your long-term cognitive health. While they are out there losing themselves, you are in here building yourself into something that cannot be broken by a lack of likes or invitations. Your brain is not just a sponge for information. It is a high-performance biological processor that needs a fortress to operate at peak capacity. For a high-efficiency brain, the world is not a playground but a sensory assault. The bright neon lights, the overlapping voices of people talking over one another in a desperate bid for attention, the constant digital ping of notifications demanding your presence. For you, these are not just minor annoyances, they are neurochemically expensive. Research in behavioral psychology shows that people who prefer staying home often have a higher level of sensory processing sensitivity. This means your prefrontal cortex is processing thousands of more data points per second than the average person. When you are in a crowded bar or a noisy dinner party, your brain is working 10 times harder to filter out the irrelevant noise just to maintain a basic conversation. By the time you get home, you are not just tired, you are neurochemically bankrupt and spiritually bruised. This is why you crave the sanctuary of your own space. You are not antisocial. You are simply protecting the integrity of your biological hardware. While the extrovert is hunting for external hits of dopamine to feel like they exist, your brain has a much lower and more stable dopamine baseline. You do not need a crowd to feel valid. You derive more pleasure from a single deep thought or a creative project or the quiet observation of a rainy street than a socialite does from an entire night of clubbing. This is an evolutionary advantage. In the ancient world, the people who could sit still and observe were the ones who noticed the subtle changes in the wind or the movement of predators that others missed. They were the strategists and the keepers of wisdom. Today, that same trait allows you to notice the patterns in your own life that everyone else is too busy to see. You are not missing out on the world. You are seeing the world with a level of clarity that the frantic and the loud can never achieve because they are too busy being the background noise in someone else's story. To understand why the world is so terrified of the silence, we must look at the cold, hard data from the University of Virginia. In the year 2014, researchers conducted a clinical experiment that exposed the dark and uncomfortable reality of the human condition. They placed participants in a room with absolutely nothing but their own thoughts for a mere 15 minutes. No phones, no books, no windows, no distractions of any kind. There was only one object in the room with them: a button that would deliver a painful electric shock if pressed. The researchers wanted to see if people could handle their own company for just a quarter of an hour. The results were staggering and frankly terrifying. 67% of the men and 25% of the women chose to intentionally shock themselves rather than just sit in silence with their own minds. They preferred the physical sting of electricity over the psychological discomfort of their own consciousness. This is the world you are living in. You are surrounded by biological machines that are so terrified of what they might find in the quiet corners of their own minds that they would literally hurt themselves to escape the silence. But you are different. You are the anomaly that the researchers were looking for. Your brain does not view silence as a threat. It views it as a laboratory for insight. You have the rare and powerful ability to sit with your own thoughts without the need for an external buffer or a digital pacifier. This means you have a relationship with yourself that most people will never achieve in their entire lives. You are not running from your shadow. You are sitting at the table with it and learning its name while everyone else is running until their hearts explode. The entire global economy is built on the foundation of your restlessness and your insecurity. Every industry, from fashion to travel to social media, is specifically designed to make you feel like your current location is a cage and your current self is a failure. They need you to feel poorly dressed. They need you to feel like your living room is a prison so that you will buy their products and their false experiences. They need you to be a consumer of noise because a contented person is a customer they cannot catch. But when you learn to love staying home, you become a direct threat to this entire system of exploitation. You become a person who cannot be easily manipulated by the fear of missing out. You develop what we call an intellectual sanctuary. Your home is not just a building of wood and stone. It is a fortress for your focus in an age of total distraction. In a world of fragmented attention, where the average person can no longer focus on a single topic for more than 8 seconds, your ability to spend 4 or 5 hours on a single book or a single hobby is a superpower. You are building a deep internal architecture, while everyone else is just painting over the cracks in their external facade. You are refusing to be a cog in the machine of social signaling. You are choosing to be a curator of your own stimuli. This is not a retreat from reality. It is an engagement with a much deeper reality. You are husbanding your precious resources for the things that actually matter to your soul. You are refusing to let the world bleed you dry for the sake of empty politeness. This is the ultimate form of self-respect. You are realizing that the most expensive thing you own is the time you have left, and you are refusing to sell it for the price of a small talk conversation at a party you never wanted to attend. Let us perform a clinical incision into the concept of guilt. Many of you feel a sharp twinge of shame when you decline a social invitation. You feel the need to invent a complex lie, or a fake emergency, or a sudden work crisis just to justify your simple desire to stay home. You feel like you are failing some invisible social exam that everyone else is passing. Stop doing that immediately. The guilt you feel is a residual byproduct of ancient tribal programming that is no longer relevant to your survival in the modern age. In the prehistoric past, being left out of the group meant certain death by starvation or predation. Your lizard brain still carries that ancient fear of being cast out. But in the modern world, the group is no longer the source of your survival. In many cases, the group is the primary source of your chronic stress and your cognitive decline. It is time to move from a state of guilt to a state of pride. Think of staying home as protective custody for your soul. You are the warden of your own well-being. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor and the most powerful man on earth in his time, once wrote that nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. He had the resources to travel anywhere and see anything, yet he recognized that the ultimate destination was always internal. When people ask you what you are doing this weekend, stop saying, "I am just staying home." That word just implies a lack of purpose or a failure of ambition. Instead, tell them you are engaging in neural maintenance. Tell them you have a high-level appointment with your own thoughts and that you cannot be disturbed. You do not owe the world an explanation for your peace. Your solitude is a direct threat to a society that runs on your restlessness, because it proves that happiness is not something you buy, but something you allow to happen in the stillness. Your home is not where you hide from the world. It is where you go to find yourself after the world has spent the entire week trying to steal you. It is the only place where you can strip away the masks you wear for the public and finally breathe. The person who is hard to manipulate is the person who is genuinely happy in an empty room. There is a specific kind of magic that happens in the third or fourth hour of being alone. It is the moment when the phantom echoes of other people's voices finally begin to fade from your mind. It is when the heavy pressure to be someone for someone else finally dissolves and falls away. This is when your true personality begins to breathe. Most people never actually meet their true selves because they are never alone long enough to let the dust settle. They are constantly being reshaped and molded by the expectations of their peers and the demands of their bosses and the trends of the internet. They are nothing but a mosaic of other people's opinions and borrowed desires. But when you stay home, you are giving your identity a chance to solidify. You are becoming a singular mountain instead of a shifting sand dune. This is why the highest performers and the deepest thinkers in history have always been drawn to the closed door and the quiet study. They understood that the world is a thief of time and a murderer of focus. They knew that the price of greatness is the willingness to be misunderstood by the masses who are too busy making noise to notice the truth. When you choose your living room over the crowded bar, you are making a choice between the temporary high of a shallow social interaction and the permanent growth of a stable and powerful mind. You are trading the shallow for the deep. You are trading the loud for the meaningful. This is the clinical reality of the high-efficiency brain. It does not seek to be seen by the eyes of others. It seeks to see into the heart of things. It does not seek to be heard. It seeks to understand the underlying mechanics of existence. By staying home, you are creating a vacuum of silence that your brain will inevitably fill with insight and creativity. This is where your best ideas come from. This is where your hidden trauma is healed through reflection. This is where your future is planned with precision. The world wants you to be busy so that you do not have time to realize how empty their promises really are. But in the quiet of your home, you are forced to look at the truth. And that truth is the only thing that can set you free from the cycle of consumption and performative joy. Consider the concept of the social tax once more with clinical detail. When you attend a social event, you are paying in more than just the money for the drinks and the transportation. You are paying in cognitive load. You are constantly monitoring your own body language to ensure it matches the group. You are calculating the appropriate timing for a laugh that feels authentic but is actually a reflex. You are scanning the environment for social cues and potential threats to your reputation. You are managing a brand that you call yourself. This is an incredibly taxing process for the human brain that consumes a massive amount of glucose and oxygen. By the time you get home, your brain is literally starving for silence. But when you stay home, the social tax is zero. You can sit in whatever position you want without judgment. You can eat what you want without eyes on your plate. You can think what you want without the fear of being cancelled by the crowd. You are in a state of cognitive surplus. This surplus is what allows you to engage in deep work, or deep play, or deep meditation. This is why the most creative people in history were often described as recluses or hermits. They were not broken. They were just being neurochemically efficient. They knew that a single hour of deep focused solitude was worth 10 hours of distracted and performative social labor. You are not a hermit. You are a master strategist. You are husbanding your finite resources for the things that actually matter to your legacy. You are refusing to let the world bleed you dry for the sake of being polite to people you will not remember in 5 years. This is the ultimate form of self-respect and self-preservation. It is the ability to say no to the world so that you can say a resounding yes to yourself and your own growth. You are becoming your own best friend instead of your own worst critic. In the final analysis, the world will always be loud, and it will always be messy, and it will always be demanding. It will always be full of people who want to sell you a version of yourself that you do not need and never asked for. The noise of the city and the noise of the internet will never truly stop, but you have the key. You have the door, and you have the silence. You are the most powerful person in the room, even if you are the only one in it, because you are the only one who does not need anyone else to feel whole. You have mastered the art of being enough. You have realized that the sanctuary you have been looking for in travel and in romance and in career success is not across the ocean or at the bottom of a cocktail glass. It is right here, in the stillness of your own space. You have stopped being a victim of the world's expectations, and you have started being the architect of your own atmosphere. This is the ultimate victory of behavioral psychology. It is the transition from a reactive life of responding to stimuli to a proactive life of creating your own reality. Every time you choose the quiet over the crowd, you are reinforcing the neural pathways of self-reliance and emotional sovereignty. You are teaching your brain that you are safe, and that you are whole, and that you are sufficient exactly as you are. This is the clinical cure for the modern malaise of anxiety and burnout, and the empty feeling of the soul. It is the simple and radical act of staying home and locking the world out. So the next time the world tries to pull you out into the noise and the nonsense, remember the sound of that key turning in the lock. Remember the immediate drop in decibels. Remember the feeling of the heavy weight leaving your shoulders as the door hits the frame. That is not boredom. That is the sound of your soul returning to its natural state of peace. If the sound of a closing door is your favorite symphony, then you have already won the game that everyone else is still trying to learn how to play. Welcome to the lab. If you find more value in the silence than the noise, then you know where the subscribe button is. We are building a community of people who are not afraid of the dark, or the quiet, or the truth. Stay home, stay focused, stay sovereign. The clinical trial of your life is ongoing, and the results are looking better and more promising every single day.